I'm here with Chris Guy. You're a guy I saw years ago during COVID when I first started following politics. You really nailed it on COVID. You were spot on. I think a lot of people did. Then you kind of disappeared. And I saw you again recently on Instagram, and you were spitting facts again. I'm like, oh shit. So I think I DM'd you and asked for an interview, and I'm glad we did this. Well, let's say COVID maybe at the end, some of that stuff. Let's talk about some current stuff, because you're kind of down the same things I've been talking about. And like, you seem to have deep knowledge in lots of things that have been kind of new to me. You mentioned someone yesterday when we were talking. That's extremely intriguing. Howard Lutnick, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, why don't you explain him?
Okay, we'll talk about Howard. Then I'll talk about who I am and why people should actually listen to me. So Howard Lutnick.
Yeah. Why don't you give an intro to yourself first, actually, instead of jumping into topics? Because you kind of came out of nowhere. I think that makes a little more sense. My bad.
Well, yeah, we could say that. So basically, I'm from Canada originally, but I've lived all over the world: Canada, U.S., Mexico, Colombia, U.K., Turkey. So I got pretty good knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Did we restart?
I think it's good. No, I think it's good. We'll just cut this whole thing.
Okay, I said it restarted. But anyway.
Oh, shit.
So during
all good?
COVID, I was all about my career. I never cared about any of that shit. Then COVID happened, and because it affected my business and it affected my personal freedoms, I got off the couch. I did it out of necessity, not because I wanted to, not because I cared so much, but because I felt like I had no choice. And for people that think I don't have skin in the game because I'm not born in the U.S., I toured all over the world, end to end in Canada. I did events in Texas, Florida, Colorado, New Mexico, California, Virginia, in D.C., Vermont, Connecticut, and probably ones I'm missing. So I've been around. I've been arrested almost 30 times, like 27 or 28 times. All COVID related stuff. I've beaten 80 charges so far. I got to go back to Canada next month for another criminal charge that I'm still fighting. So they put the screws to me. They took my driver's license in Canada. They took all my legally owned guns in Canada. Still have them. Still have my license. I'm banned off most Canadian airlines from flying. Banned from PayPal for life. And the reason you didn't see me on social media is because I was completely banned on all social media, including Elon Musk's supposed free speech Twitter.
Free speech.
And the only reason I got that Instagram back, that was like one of my backup accounts. I hired a legal team 13 months ago, and I completely forgot about it. And then they just contacted me like last month, like, hey, by the way, we got your Instagram back randomly. So that's the only reason I've been on there.
So you had to spend money to get that back. If you didn't have money, you wouldn't have it.
I had to spend money and over a year just to try to get it back.
No, I'm glad I saw you on there because you're spitting facts. That's crazy how they ban people when they're speaking too much truth. That's how it appears. You also, I saw a thing you were saying a truck tried to hit you in Mexico the other day, tried running you down.
That was crazy. I was just walking to the gym. I walk to the gym every day, pretty much the same route every day. It's like 1.5 kilometers each way, and I go twice a day. And I was walking at night, and this pickup truck, and I noticed the pickup truck because over here I'm in Mexico. Mm-hmm. Very few people have a full-size pickup truck. Everyone's got like a little tiny one. This is a big red Dodge Ram, full-size, lifted, like 1 out of 10,000 trucks over here. So I was watching it, and he came around the corner really fast as I was walking down the street, and I was watching. I was like, why is this guy driving so fast? And halfway through the corner, when he had plenty of room, he turned right into me. Like totally tried to run me the fuck over. And I just from instinct, I stepped out of the way really quick, hurt one of my feet. I hit the car, turned around to see if the guy was going to stop. He stopped, so I hit the truck one time, and then he took off. So I started chasing him, but obviously I couldn't catch a fucking truck. And that was that. So, and I know it was definitely done on purpose. I don't know if it was related to everything that's going on or the guy just wanted to hit me because he was a psychopath, but there was no reason for him to turn into me mid-turn, but he did. But anyway.
No, that's wild. And a little off subject, but I think you're also banned from the U.S., right? Because I asked about doing an in-person interview with you, and it was just like, I was like, I'll fly you out here. And you're like, oh, I can't come to the U.S.
I got banned by Trump. Ask why I got banned.
Yeah, why'd you get banned?
As part of my America tour, I had done all those different states I told you. I had left the country. I was in Mexico doing an event in Mexico. And then I got called back for an event in Florida. And this is October 2023. And it was a 2-day long event with an additional third day before the event started just for churchgoers. And since I got invited by a pastor, I was allowed to go to the pre-event the first day. And then there was it was the Reawakening America tour. And it was in Doral, Florida, at Donald Trump's hotel and golf course. Gorgeous property, big property. So I went there the first day, and it was literally, they set up the Donald Trump banquet hall like a church. It literally looked like a church inside, except there was one odd thing in this church. Israeli flags everywhere.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, oh my goodness. And I looked at the preacher that was next to me. I'm like, is this normal to you? And even he was like, this is really, really strange. And they gave sermon after sermon instructing the Trump supporters of how biblically and metaphorically and morally they need to support Israel, give Israel money, weapons, whatever they want. And I was just holding my tongue the whole time. I was like, whatever. The next 2 days were the Reawakening America tour. There was VIP, speakers, and media. I was not scheduled to be a speaker because I only got invited to the event like 2 days before the event. So they gave me a media VIP badge. So I spent my time just talking to people, doing media interviews, and I had to do a podcast for an anti-child trafficking thing. The second day, the stage manager came up to me and said, a lot of people saw you and were wondering when you're going to speak, because I am known for speaking. And they said a few people didn't show up. So if I wanted to speak, they were going to let me speak on the last day, right before Eric Trump. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'll speak. No problem. And I wasn't going to speak about Israel. It wasn't even on my mind. And the last thing I was going to do at this event was speak about Israel when 99.9% of the people are not going to be receptive to what I'm going to say. I'm going to speak based on my audience. I'm not going to like censor myself or lie, but I'm not going to go and speak when I know I'm going to antagonize people. Anyway, so the next day I did my podcast that I was supposed to do for the anti-child trafficking. And I went, and they had actually even given me a speaker badge at this point. So I had the VIP, speaker, and media badge, all three. So I went to go find the stage manager, and all of a sudden, Trump's Secret Service shows up. 2 dudes. And I know they're his Secret Service because the Secret Service works for him and his kids. And his daughter and his son were both at this event. And these dudes, they had an aura unlike anybody I'd ever met. They were big guys in really nice suits, earpieces. And they had this aura that said, I've killed a lot of people and I enjoy it. But don't worry, we're not going to hurt you, which was very strange.
Yeah, right.
At the same time, I was like, okay. So they come over to me and they go, are you Chris Sky? And they have a tablet. I say, what's this about? They pop open the tablet and it goes right to my Twitter. And this was before my Twitter was banned. And they show the social media post. And the post read, the Israeli invasion of Palestine, brought to you by the same people as COVID, climate change, censored social media, and rigged elections. Obviously, I'm making a joke. Obviously, we know who I'm talking about. Obviously, we know who I was talking about. So they go, sorry, you're not going to be able to speak today, and we're going to have to take you off the premises. So they come up beside me, and they put my arms like this, so my elbows are bent, and they pick me up by my elbows, one on either side, like just a quarter inch off the ground, so you couldn't even tell I was lifted. And they effortlessly carried me right out of the building. Outside, I got attacked by all these cops. They didn't like grab me and everything, but they surrounded me, detained me, and they actually gave me a trespass notice that said, because I made an anti-Israeli social media post. That's the official police record.
That's
and
insane.
Then I left the USA, tried to come back a couple weeks later, and I was not allowed in the country. And that was 2023. So I'm still waiting to get special paperwork to be able to come back in.
No, it's insane. It's unfortunate I couldn't interview with you. And it's someone, like I said, I only started following politics a few years ago, but then you could just see this obvious Israeli/American or Canadian Jewish control over our countries. And it's like, I was glad to see you when I found your Instagram speaking about the same things, because anyone who's awake, I don't know if it's something you've known long before or new, but anyone paying attention is going to see it. You know, that's why I recently went on Alex Jones. And for him, that's what he does for a career. To not be able to see it, it's kind of like, come on, Alex.
No, I know. I got really mad at Alex the other day when he tried to talk about when he tried to defend Trump for the Epstein files.
Hey guys, I'm a self-funded podcast, so if you want to support me and the work I'm doing, go to fightbackpodcast.com and you can buy cool merch like the shirt I'm wearing about the Rhodesia Resistance. Methylene blue has been used for over 100 years for medical purposes and recently surged back into popularity. It has been shown to help repair brain tissue and improve memory, cognitive function, energy, and mood. Research suggests that methylene blue could have neuroprotective effects, possibly aiding in conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and depression. Go to MerakiMedicinal.com and use the promo code FIGHTBACK for a discount.
And
That was like,
I would love to talk about Trump's promises, and I want to talk about his supporters, and I want to
yeah,
prove that I don't mean this in a bad way, because if you look at studies, on entire populations all over the world, it's not just in America, it's everywhere. It's something like 75% of people lack the ability for critical thought and discernment, and are lacking in the ability of opposing authority. And if anybody wants to doubt that, just go back to COVID for 5 seconds and think how many people put the mask on, how many people jabbed themselves, how many people jabbed their kids, how many people didn't even leave their houses because they were told not to. Answer: 75 to 85%, exactly how the
yep.
study shows. So I'm not trying to be mean when I say this, but at the same time, it's going to sound mean when I say this. However, I do have a lot of skin in the game, and every single time I was arrested, I was tortured because I refused to take a COVID vax, I refused to wear a mask, and I refused to take a jab. So every single time I got arrested, whether I spent 1, 2, 3, 4 nights in jail, I was always in 23 hours and 45 minutes a day solitary confinement, only supplied 2 meals, not allowed access to the showers, the gym, the TV, the range, outside. I had to stay in my cell all day and was only allowed in the range for 10 minutes a day and 5 minutes for a phone call. Other than that, I was stuck in my cell the entire time. And I've never been convicted of a crime in my life. So this is the
No, it's
kind of shit
wild.
I went through. So when I say this and it sounds mean, sorry guys, I got a lot of skin in the game. But whatever Donald Trump was saying, his promises sounded fantastic. Like, even me, knowing that I was against him because I didn't really trust him, said, okay, I agree with everything he's saying. What am I talking about? Well, first we'll talk about his wins. He said he was going to scale back LGBT stuff, get rid of transgender in sports and military, and he made good on those promises. And I think that's actually the biggest win of his presidency thus far, because it didn't have any really negative
Yeah.
repercussions for his base or for the country, etc. So I'll call that a huge win. And I
Yeah, no,
even
you
saw
give.
positive, right?
I
You
think it's
agree with me?
important. I know. I think it's important that we give Trump his wins where his wins and his losses where his
100%.
losses. I think people on both sides, they get lumped into he's either worship him or they hate him. And the
No,
majority, I think a lot of my followers are Trump fans. I voted for him not this last election, but it's like people want someone to believe in, so it's hard for people to realize that Trump's not the guy to believe in. So I understand why people get mad when we first say it, but people need to start opening their eyes. So it's like the first, I felt the same way, like the punch in the gut when people first were like, oh, he's not. So it's like hard to admit you've been duped, but I think it's important that we have these conversations and people start looking, and people are starting to see it now slowly.
that's it. It's just like COVID. Everybody had an alarm clock. Some people woke up instantly. Some people took a few months. Some people took a few years. Some people are still getting back. It's just the way it is. There's levels to this. But yes, that was, in my opinion, Trump's biggest win, and we even benefited in Canada. Pride lost all their corporate sponsors like Home Depot, all this stuff, like crazy. And I was
It's
like,
awesome.
damn, that's great shit. So
Yeah,
I'm
the
going to give
world.
Trump a huge win on that. And he's probably, besides Putin pushing back against that kind of stuff hard, I don't know anyone else around the world that did. So I'll give Trump his big win
No,
for that.
big Trump win, and the world follows American politics. So I think it's really important, these type of things. It sounds stupid, it's common sense, but that is a big win. So I'll agree.
It's a huge win, and it reverberated all around the world, just like you said. Especially, it started in Canada, but I even see it in the EU. It's affecting everywhere. So I'll give him a round of applause for that. The second win was his J6 thing, where he made good on his promise to pardon the protesters. And for him, that's a no-brainer, because that was a genius move politically.
Yeah,
It friggin' entrenched his base like you wouldn't believe, and it was the right thing to do. So it made him look
yeah,
like a good dude.
they were in prison because of him. So I think that was definitely the right thing
And
to
they were
do.
in
But I was
prison,
still
but
I was
very
still happy he did that. That was absurd. Those guys are in prison. I've interviewed a couple of those guys. Absolutely absurd. So again, I agree. Another big Trump win.
Huge Trump win. But now let's talk about the promises he made, where some of them, it was just easy to tell right away that it just made no sense and was impossible to do. Perfect example, end the Russia war day one. And people will argue about this, but he said it over 50 times on the campaign trail that this war wouldn't have happened if I was president, and I will end this war day one. And I just heard that statement and I thought, Putin doesn't listen to anybody. You guys have been giving Ukraine hundreds of billions of dollars in weapons and full support of NATO against Putin. But Putin's now going to just be like, okay, I'm stopping the war because Trump is the president. I'm like, this is the most ridiculous and narcissistic statement ever. And it's virtually impossible for him to make that as a promise. Now, if he said, I will start trying to end the war day one, and the first day I'm in office, I will talk to Putin and I will make this a priority, I would have a lot of respect for him. But he said, no, I'm going to end it on day one. Then obviously that didn't happen. So he pushed back and said, we'll do it in 100 days. Now, obviously that didn't happen. And he had the audacity to go on an interview and say he was being sarcastic when he said he was going to end the war on day one, which is absolutely ludicrous. And now he gave him, another 50 days before sanctions? And Russia just responded laughing, basically. So ridiculous statement to make. And it was easy for anybody with critical thinking skills to right off the bat be like, that's just not going to happen. But it doesn't stop people from saying literally that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize already for stopping no less than 5 wars. Am I making this up, or did you hear this as well?
It's crazy. Like when he bombed Iran, then he didn't go to full regime change. They were being like, give him a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, you're the one that just started this war. Israel started it, then he was helping Israel. Then they're saying he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for bombing Iran. That was the most insane thing I've ever heard. And they're acting like, see, trust Trump, you were wrong. Like, what are you morons talking about? He was the one that was bombing Iran. Yeah, I'm glad he didn't go full regime change, but like, fuck's sake, he does not. That's like when Obama got the, didn't he get a Nobel Peace Prize for bombing like 7 countries?
Yes, exactly. The Nobel Prize become a freaking joke at this point. Like literally, you start a war and then you stop the war by not bombing them again. Nobel Peace Prize. Are you kidding? And he took credit for the so-called ceasefire in Gaza. That was the next promise. End all the wars for Israel. Oh, really?
They're still being massacred.
End the wars in Israel by giving them never-ending billions of dollars. F-35 Lightnings. Now they want to give them B-2 bombers. They gave them bunker buster previously banned munitions. We know they're secretly using depleted uranium rounds when they bomb places like Iran, which are against the Geneva Convention and international law. And we know that every single day they're killing people in Gaza, which is occupied. They've now occupied Lebanon and killing people every day under ceasefire. And now they've occupied southern Syria, which, by the way, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, if you're paying attention, just so happen to be the territories that they need to annex and steal for their greater Israel project. That's just a conspiracy theory, but just so happens to be playing out right before our very eyes.
No, it's wild. Once they started seeing the greater Israel project and the land they keep taking, it's so apparent, but people just pretend not to see it. I think part of the problem is Trump. If Trump would abandon Israel, the whole right would abandon him because they're abandoning him regardless. Trump's going to lose his base. You can see if you're online, and I use my name and I go out social a lot, so I can feel this shift in real time. Say, oh yeah, how Trump, like I said, you can see, we got an audio problem, we're hopping back in, but you can see there's a change. Trump's base is starting to turn on him because they're starting to see his lies and his doubling down, his defense of Israel. And people are turning. I don't think he's going to be able to stop it. I mean, what do you think? Do you feel like there's a turn? Someone that uses your real name and puts yourself out there, you can just feel it, right?
Oh, I can tell right away that he's definitely losing his grip on his base. And every time he lies, with every scandal, with every single thing I'm going to talk about here with you, each one is chipping away at his base. That doesn't mean that he still does not have a very large hardcore base of MAGA that will literally make any type of, like, mental gymnastics for MAGA should become an Olympic sport, because I've never seen the type of thing. I just made a video about this. I interviewed some private MAGA guys. They're like, oh, we don't want to be on video, but you can interview us and you can tell the world what we are going to tell you. And in their mind, this is all part of 7,777D chess. It's going to take Trump 3 or 4 years to get the military in position to be able to take out the pedophiles and take out Israel. So we just have to sit back and let him do everything Israel wants, let the pedophiles go, and make excuses for every broken promise until 3 or 4 years from now, sometime the military is going to come in and take it, which I think is completely ridiculous. But that's what the hardcore Trump supporters feel. But like you said, with every slip up or lie or failure to produce his results that he promised, Trump is losing a little bit of his base. Like, he lost some people with the Russia war. He lost some people with the Israeli thing. The next thing I'm going to talk about is, okay, I know Americans aren't good at math, But ladies and gentlemen, when a man comes out and says, I have 4 years to be here, I'm going to deport 10 million illegals in 4 years. Okay, simple math, ladies and gentlemen. There's 48 months in 4 years. That's 225,000 people a month. That is 8,000 people a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It doesn't take a mathematician to simply hear that. It's like when I watch Austin Powers and Dr. Evil's like, I want $100 gazillion billion, and we all laugh. But Americans hear this number and they're like, yeah, Trump's gonna deport 10 million. They don't even think about it. How is that possible? And in reality, do you guys know how many people he's deported this year in 7 months? Do you know the number?
Not very many. I know it's really low, less than Biden. I know that.
It's estimated around 250,000 in 7 months. So he's on track for maybe 400 to 500,000 for the year. So in 4 years, he's on track for maybe 2 million, which, if you look it up, is less than Biden and less than Obama. So where's the 10 million? But if you ask a Trump supporter, this is one of his biggest wins, and he's doing exactly what he said he would do, even though he's not even doing a fraction of what he said he would do. So this is a perfect example of even when math, which is a universal language of facts that cannot lie, tells you that Trump not only lied, but knowingly lied, because it's not hard for anybody to discern that this was an impossible feat. It's not. So he's lying, and he knows he's lying, but he's doing it because he knows his base is so stupid they can get away with it. Sorry, guys, but that's the reality.
No, it's insane. I couldn't agree more. It's insane. I think these people, people want to believe in someone. You want to have someone you look to for hope. So I understand it, but you think we have to realize no one's coming to save us. That's why we need to. And the whole people they're saying 7D chest. That's just such BS. I think they're the ones that put it out there, so we wouldn't question it. I think Israel put that out there, so we'd just be like, trust the plan, 7D chest. It's like you started seeing over and over him just kissing Israel's ass, calling Netanyahu the best person, helping his war, sending him more money. It's not 7D chest. I started anyway. I asked about that Howard Lutnick guy because you mentioned him last night, and I was so fascinating because I barely heard anything about him. Started going down that rabbit hole, and I was like, wow, this is like a powerful guy that's in his ear that I hadn't even really noticed. His secretary comments. He's chief main guy raising his money, just wild.
I want to get into him when we get to the Epstein files, but I want to finish on Trump promises first. Because that's going to be a hard hitter.
Yeah, because you're right. Once we start that, it's going to go down a different rabbit hole. So let's finish these up.
So the other, let's finish. Let's see what was Trump's next promise. This is my favorite one. He's going to use Doge. What was Doge created for, ladies and gentlemen? Why was Elon Musk brought in? The entire purpose of Doge was to cut $1 trillion a year from the federal budget so we could trim $4 trillion off the federal budget deficit throughout Trump's term. It's that simple. Forget all the conspiracy theories that I've been hearing floating around. Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, and Elon Musk were put in that position for one purpose: cut $1 trillion from spending. What happened? Trump came up with the big, beautiful bill. And in the big, beautiful bill, not only did they not cut the trillion that they promised, he actually added between 500 and 600 billion to the deficit. So instead of saving 4 trillion, you're going to add an extra 2 trillion plus the already existing budget deficit, which is like $1.5 trillion a year. So all in all, in 4 years, Trump is planning on adding between 6 to 8 trillion in debt to the country. And that's why Elon came out and said, don't pass the big, beautiful bill. He didn't do what he said. He didn't make the cuts. And now they just came out and said, oh, we made all these cuts with Doge. And Doge was supposed to cut 1 trillion, which, by the way, for Americans that don't understand very well, that's 1,000 billion. How much did Doge actually cut? 9 billion. Nothing. That's not even 1%. That's 0.9% of what they promised. But if you ask a Trump supporter, even 0.1% of the promise, this is what I voted for. This is my president doing exactly what he said. No, he didn't. Not only did he not make the cuts, he increased. And what's the worst part of that? That goes into his next promise and next lie. Because his next promise was he's going to eliminate your income tax. How is he going to do that? First, he's going to cut $1 trillion with Doge, and then he's going to make $1 trillion with the tariffs. Why did he use the number $2 trillion? Very simple, ladies and gentlemen. Your income tax generates $2.4 trillion or $2,400 billion a year. And that's while you're still running a budget deficit. So that doesn't mean that you're at par right now. Even with that money, you're still taking out a huge loan at the end of the year to pay for everything. So that's $2.4 trillion. And he said he's going to replace it with $1 trillion in cuts from Doge, which we know are now only $9 billion. And then he said he's going to do $1 trillion in tariffs to do the other part. But how much money has he raised in tariffs? What is the most money the U.S. has ever raised in tariffs in 1 year? Do you know?
I don't. Maybe 100 billion or something. Not a trillion. I know that.
Exactly right. Literally, like 104 billion. You are a fucking genius.
I think I read that. I think I read that recently. Is why. So that was in my brain somewhere. I think I must have read it.
100%. 2024 last year they did 100 billion in tariffs. So now that Trump did his whole tariff plan, we are 7 months in. They're like, we have now got at this point 113 billion in tariffs for the entire year, which is 50 to 60 billion more than they had at this time last year. So they promised $1 trillion raised in tariffs, but meanwhile they've only raised in 7 months an extra 50 billion. So they're on par for the whole year to raise maybe an extra 100 billion in tariffs, while your income tax that your tariffs are supposed to replace are 2,400 billion. Once again, it doesn't take a mathematician to understand that you can't replace 2,400 billion with 100 billion. And this is the best part, ladies and gentlemen. This is the absolute best part. Who pays the tariffs, Jake?
We do. Costs go up in America. This is something people don't understand. Costs get passed to us, not the government.
This is what people don't understand. People think in America, when Trump came to Canada and said, I'm putting a 30% tariff on steel, for instance, they automatically assume that Canada is now paying 30% more. No, it doesn't work like that.
Nope, we're paying for it.
If I'm a Canadian steel company and Jake's the American steel company, and I'm selling him $1 million worth of steel, I'm still selling you for that $1 million.
Yep.
Now, once it gets to the border, Trump grabs it and says, hey, Jake, you got to pay your 30% tax on this, so you're paying $1.3 million. Now, Jake's going to cry to me and say, I want you to pay some of this. And more than likely, I'm going to tell Jake to go fuck himself. And he's going to be stuck with the 30% extra cost. So then guess what he's going to do, ladies and gentlemen? He's going to pass that cost on to the consumer. And you're going to pay because you have no choice. And if you're doubting this very fact, Walmart just released a whole price list of prices for random goods in May 2025 before the tariffs and prices in July after the tariffs. And some of the products are now up to 50% more expensive because of the tariffs. So the tariffs are nothing but a tax that is primarily paid by the American taxpayer. Meanwhile, they go on CNN and tell you, we just raised $100 billion in tariff revenue without telling you that you paid for it. That is literally the first time in human history where the leader of a country can implement a giant tax increase on the entire population, and not only will they not be mad about it, they will scream and yell, we're winning! This is how stupid the average Trump supporter is. So not only are you not going to replace income tax with the tariffs, because we've already established 100 billion cannot replace 2,400 billion, that just means you're going to keep paying your income tax, but now you're going to pay this new tariff tax. So what did you get out of it? Absolutely nothing. So now you're just paying more money for the same thing that you had yesterday. Mm-hmm. And now we can talk about Hillary.
Well, and COVID also inflated the dollar. I don't know how bad it was in Canada, but things are way up in America. You know, like I'm in the upper middle class, and I still go to look at price shock. I couldn't imagine being like lower middle class with these price increases, and now they're hitting more increases on it. So it's like it's brutal to the average family. They're making it so it's like impossible for one income to support a family, and then who raises your kids? The state.
You're 100% correct. During COVID, when because of COVID, they dropped the interest rates to like 1%. And then Trump went nuts and printed more money in 3 years than the entire previous existence of the United States combined. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. In 3 years, And we did something similar in Canada, but Canada were way smaller, so it was only something like 500 billion, but our economy is only 2 trillion. So that was like 25% of our entire GDP. So we had the exact same thing as you, way less money involved, but on a grand scale, it hurt us way more than you guys got hurt. So trust me, we feel the exact same thing.
It's
and
brutal.
by the way, I want to make it aware that Trump wants to do the exact same thing again. Interest rates right now in the United States are between 4.25 and 4.5% by the Fed. Jerome Powell wants to keep them where they are. Trump wants them to like 1%. Why? Because he knows then he can print money like crazy, artificially inflate the economy. Companies will start investing. Companies will start hiring people. It'll give the illusion of huge GDP growth, huge money coming in, but it's all inflationary and it's all temporary because, as we know, interest rates will eventually go back up and all that money that he printed will now have to be paid for at those high interest rates.
No,
but
all
that's
this money printing.
Mark my words. If the Fed does not lower interest rates in July at the end of the month, he's trying to do everything he can to get rid of Powell, even try to get him arrested. And in September, they're going to drop the rates. Remember,
you nailed COVID spot on, so you're probably right. And it's like all this money printing, it's going to crash our economy eventually. People don't understand. They just want to push it to the future, and you can't do that forever. And I don't know, the dollar will become worthless or we won't pay it. It's going to be a drastic, I mean, we won't get to this podcast, but it's going to be a drastic crash that can happen to America from our debt.
It's pretty, I can tell you in not even 30 seconds what's going to happen. The thing that allowed the Americans to print this much money with low inflation, besides the interest rates for such a long time, is the fact that the dollar was the world reserve currency and the fact that almost all oil transactions were done in US dollars. If you go back to the year 2000, 75% of all currency reserves were US dollars. That's insane. And over 93% of oil transactions were done in US dollars. Now, especially since BRICS came about, in 2025, the U.S. only makes up 57% of world reserve currency, and it's losing almost 1.5% annually, and that is actually increasing year over year because of BRICS. And oil transactions are now down to 70% U.S. dollars from over 90% just 25 years ago. So the writing's on the wall. The fiat currency of the U.S., especially with 40 plus trillion, almost 50 trillion in debt by the time Trump's done, is going to be a slow, steady decline until it gets to the point where all the countries have unloaded all their U.S. treasuries because they want to do it, but they got to do it slowly, or they'll devalue their own treasuries and they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. So if you look, China's getting rid of like 20 billion a month. So by the end of the year, they'll get rid of 200 billion, which is a third of their treasuries almost. So they're getting rid of them fast as they can without causing upheaval. So if people want to know what's going to happen with the dollar, that's what's going to happen. It's going to keep losing more status as world reserve currency. Within 10 years, it will no longer be the world reserve currency. And if they don't do something about the debt crisis, the dollar is then going to lose significant value to the point where the U.S. Purchasing power is going to disintegrate to like third world country status.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're spot on. And it feels like the elites want this. It feels like they're intentionally trying to crash us. Like during COVID, people... So many friends lost their businesses or got addicted to drugs or killed themselves. It was an attack on the middle class. They had to shut their businesses down while the Walmarts, the big businesses, stayed open. So to me, it feels deliberate.
It's 1,000% deliberate, and there's a reason for that. Israel understands two things. They can't control and fool the U.S. forever. You can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And we are at the point in history where the world is whipping up to Israel and their lies more than ever before. So in reality, what does Israel see the U.S. as? Right now, they're a financier and we are their bodyguard, etc. But once we find out about the parasitic relationship, once the blackmail comes to light, once the pedophilia and all that comes to light, we are their worst enemy. And they cannot defeat us. They also cannot defeat Russia or China or Iran. So what is their only option? To make Russia, China, Iran, and the U.S. fight each other. And that's exactly what we see them trying to do. And people can argue till I'm blue in the face. But can Israel beat the U.S.? No. Can Israel beat Iran on their own? No. Can Israel beat Russia on their own? No. Can Israel beat China on their own? No. Israel can't even beat Pakistan on their own. So their only option, inevitably, all these countries are going to turn on Israel. So their only option is to make all these countries attack each other while they sit back and get ready to divide the spoils of war. That's exactly what their plan is. It's really that simple.
I think this explains the Ukraine war. I was just so baffled why we were so all in this war, and just to get Russia and America weakening each other. Also, Russia was a big supporter of Iran, and it weakens Iran. It weakens the whole region. Because I was just looking there, being like, why are we at war with Ukraine? It doesn't make any sense. And this is the only thing I really could see.
And it's also the second Jewish money laundering pit, because Ukraine and Israel are the two biggest Zionist-run nations. And that's why they can send hundreds of billions to Ukraine, because they're just basically stealing it. And that's why it was easy for me to tell people, not only is Trump not going to stop the war in Ukraine, he's actually going to send them money and weapons. And people told me I had TDS. People told me I was freaking crazy. And now that he's doing it, I'm like, I told you he was going to do it. And they go, oh, no, well, he has to now. There's a perfect example. We'll go into Epstein and the Lutnick connection. So what was Trump's biggest campaign promise of all? Drain the swamp, release the Epstein files, arrest the pedophiles, end the corruption, take down the deep state. That's what made everybody vote for him. He got his son to talk about it. He got Rubio to talk about it. Vance to talk about it. Bondi, Bongino, Patel. Do I need to go on? There are so many people telling you to vote for Trump because he's going to release the Epstein files. He's going to drain the swamp. He's going to end the corruption. And then what does he do? He tells you all, I'm not releasing the files. There are no files. It's a hoax that was created by the Democrats. The files don't exist. Meanwhile, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I know a lot about this case. Maxwell and Epstein were both arrested for child sex trafficking. Maxwell pleaded guilty to child sex trafficking. So obviously there has to be some clients, because she pleaded guilty to sending these kids. We also know that they used the major banks to finance this. Which two banks? JP Morgan Chase in the United States and Deutsche Bank in Europe for the royal family and them. How do we know this? Because Deutsche Bank paid $90 million US as a settlement to about 100 and something different Epstein victims. And those are the ones that are still alive, because most of them either were killed ritualistically, harvested for organs, silenced, or just killed for whatever other reason. So $90 million paid as a settlement to all these victims. Then we have Chase Bank that had to pay two separate settlements. One for $70 million on behalf of one of their CEOs, that Stali was his name, directly connected to Epstein, directly aiding and abetting the trafficking. He had to resign from the bank, but they paid $70 million and he got off. Then the bank itself had to pay an additional $290 million to some more victims of Epstein and Maxwell, totaling 275 victims. So we know there's at least 275 people on that list, and this is only a fraction of the victims. So not only is Trump knowingly protecting these pedophiles that are in government, banking, royal family, judges, lawyers, cops, celebrities, he's enabling this child trafficking to continue, which we know it is, because Jeffrey
we know it's
Epstein's
still going on, exactly.
Are still active. They didn't even freeze them or seize them. They're still letting them go. So we know it's continuing. And we know
was just a front.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was that he was just like a front for something going on. I think it's like there's an operation going on and it just goes on without him, Roy Cohen, who is Trump's, he helped groom Trump. He was running blackmail operations back in the day. Supposedly he had blackmail in J. Edgar Hoover. This is something that's been ongoing. It's these Israeli blackmail operations. And if this comes crashing down, our whole system comes crashing down. That's why Trump's willing to crash his career instead of release the files. I think it's just too big for the American people. They'll see it and they just, it'll be one of those things where it's like enough is enough. As many of you guys know, I run a free speech podcast. That comes as a price. It's being demonetized everywhere. So one way to support the podcast is to buy your books from AntelopeHillPublishing.com. Today's selection is The Trans-Industrial Complex. This book covers the money-making machine of the trans industries and shows it's not to help people, but to make money and get rich. So again, if you want to support the podcast, go to AntelopeHillPublishing.com and be sure to use promo code FIGHTBACK. That'll save you money and support me. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that I've never told anyone on any podcast anywhere in the world. So people listen very carefully. I have a very unique perspective on the whole Jeffrey Epstein debacle, and there's a reason for this. My father, as I told you, for 3 decades, I was in residential development, and my father before me was in the same field. He worked for a company called Cadillac Fairview Homes for something like 25 years as the head of low-rise residential construction. Cadillac Fairview Homes is owned by a family called the Bronfmans. The Bronfman family are an Israeli Jewish Zionist family originally from New Jersey, New York, who made a shitload of money during Prohibition. Then they moved to Canada and bought Seagram's alcohol, which they later sold for $38 billion with a B dollars. That's how rich they are. And then they own Cadillac Fairview, which is the largest builder in Canada for homes, condos, airports, shopping centers, etc. And my father worked for that company for 25 years. In fact, one of the
So you have a lot of information.
Pardon?
So you have lots of like information on it. That's what I was wondering. You knew so much about the Brofmans, all this stuff. So that makes a little more sense.
Bro. I grew up with these people. My father used to keep, because they already knew I had a mind for business from a very young age. I used to shadow my father from like 3 years old. He brought me everywhere with him. And these people, I grew up around them. By the time I was like 8 years old, I knew there was something wrong with these people. Like, I didn't know what it was. I just knew they were
something's off.
People. Yeah, as a child, you can tell. And I can tell these are bad people. So what kind of people are we talking about? In 1990, the leader of the Bronfman family, Edward Bronfman Sr., was in New York City, and he met with Steven Spielberg, the director from Hollywood. Yes, that's Steven Spielberg. And they met with Les Wexner, who's the owner of Victoria's Secret, and who's Jeffrey Epstein's financier and boss. And the three of them got together, and they created a talent group called Megacorp. Now that they create, and this talent group was supposed to source the best looking children for Hollywood from all over the world. Mega Group became the original corporation for the sex trafficking ring that we now know. Why? Because Wexner put Epstein in charge of Mega Group. So Bronfman, Wexner, Spielberg are the heads, and they funded it. And now Epstein became the face running it, and Maxwell. They fully knew that these people were Mossad agents. So this became a Mossad operation, and it was also even an Israeli lobby firm for politics. So they used the funding to lobby for Israeli politics. They used the connections to sex trafficked children all over the world, and they used their connections with the banks to fund this and to keep it all under the radar. This is the basis of the child trafficking ring that we saw today. So I grew up around all of these people. I grew up in this life. Their fucking lieutenant was my godfather when I was born. So when I say I have a unique perspective on these people, you should fucking listen to me. And I'm telling you right now that Trump and Epstein were best friends. This is another MAGA sticking point where they need to get it through their head, because you can talk to a MAGA person and they go, oh, no, they were just acquaintances. They didn't really know each other. Even though they're in like 700 photos together, more photos with him than anyone else in the friggin' world, they will deny it. Meanwhile, if you have a computer or a phone, anybody watching this right now, go on Google right now and Google Epstein, Donald's closest friend. One of the first 3 search results, depending on which country you happen to be in, will be an official us.house.gov website where there is a interview with Jeffrey Epstein that was audio recorded and then transcribed and submitted to the government as court evidence. So this is Epstein's voice, Epstein's words, submitted to the U.S. government and now online for download in a U.S. government website. And I can send you the screenshots, whatever you want. The very first question they asked him was, how close were you to Donald Trump? And the direct quote from Jeffrey Epstein, ladies and gentlemen, recorded in a government document filed to the government is, I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years.
Wow.
Period.
He's also flown on his jet 7 times, and Donald has his own jet. So when you both have your own jets and you're flying that many times together, that says a lot. These are busy guys that don't really change their schedules around. Like someone like Donald's the kind of guy that'll be like, oh, like for me, like when we travel somewhere, we usually don't change your schedules around to match your friends. Just go. So if you're changing your schedule when you have your own jet, that says a lot. I haven't flown anyone's private jet 7 times.
And did you know that Epstein is the one that introduced Ivana to Donald Trump? And I'm not talking about Ivanka, his daughter. We're talking about Ivana, his wife in the late 80s. Epstein, his acquaintance, not his friend, introduced him to his wife. And by the way, how did their marriage end and why did their marriage end? Does everybody know this? You know? No. In 1989, Donald Trump raped his wife, Ivana. She had him arrested for the rape. And he was forced to pay her a $10 million settlement and slapped her with a gag order. So she was not allowed to talk about it. And she had to literally change her statement wording from rape to forced unwanted sex. So he wouldn't get a rape charge and have to go to jail. So he paid his ex-wife $10 million after raping her. And then to get that money back, this is how sadistic Trump is. Do you know what he did to his wife, his ex-wife?
What did he do? No,
well, first of all, she died under mysterious circumstances. Alone in her house, fell down the stairs.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's already weird as fuck. Then guess what he did with her body?
What did he do with it?
He brought her body to his golf course in New Jersey, and he buried her on the golf course so he could then go and get the golf course registered as a non-profit cemetery so he wouldn't have to pay property taxes or land transfer tax when he sells the property. So he literally put her in her own lonely grave in an area. She doesn't even have a headstone. She just has one of those plaques on the floor. And it's his ex-wife. And he buried her body on his golf course so he could save money in taxes.
Yeah, it's insane. Not to get too off subject, but you see RFK, he had a wife who was also good friends with Ghislaine Maxwell, killed herself under mysterious situations, and then she was buried. He dug her body up with no permits and moved it to this weird, like, different cemetery. And you'd never dig up bodies with this is pretty much unheard of, but no criminal charges are pressed against him. It's just absolutely insane.
Crazy. I never knew that. He should have been in jail, like, instantly.
Yeah, I never heard of these things either. Like you said, I never heard of Trump. This stuff is insane. It's like almost like when you look up these guys, you don't want to hear this stuff. And me being an ex-Trump supporter, I would maybe purposely not see this stuff. In the RFK, I was a supporter of him too, but then I started seeing stuff like this and like, who's going to dig up a body without permits? Like no one does. That's completely unheard of, and move it out of the cemetery. And when she hung herself, her hands were in the noose. It was one of those mysterious things. She would, Epstein would loan him his plane. Like these guys don't loan people planes. This is like kind of something weird going on.
Definitely something weird. And in that government document, by the way, that Epstein claims and says that Trump was his closest friend, it also has an entire presentation of all the places they went together. So think about this. They're telling you that they're just acquaintances. Meanwhile, they went to the Playboy Mansion together multiple times. They went to Victoria's Secret fashion shows multiple times, which we know was owned by Wexner, which we know was a pedophile partner of Epstein. They went to the Miss America and Teen America pageants because Trump owned both of them. And Trump even admitted that he would walk into the dressing rooms and see the girls naked, including the underage girls as young as 14, and made a joke about it. And his supporters are like, oh, he was just joking. No, he literally tells you he walked in on them and he could do it because he's the owner. They also went to Diddy parties together. They also, like you said, flew on his jet. They went to his casino together. We found out the other day when they went to the casino together, they had 19-year-old girls that weren't old enough to be in the casino. So the only reason they were going there was to go to the hotel. So Trump was married, but going to hotels with Epstein and 3 19-year-old girls because, Trump never did anything. He never had sex with any girls with Epstein, and him and Epstein weren't friends, even though Epstein himself said they were best friends. But hey.
Yeah, clearly they were doing stuff together that wasn't good. Whether it was legal or not, you can't say. But it was pretty clear Trump's also in the Epstein files. Like when Elon Musk said you're in the files, if you weren't in the files, you'd just be, no, I'm fucking not. Now, what he's in there for, that's debatable. But clearly he's in there and he really doesn't want them out. That's pretty damn apparent.
And you know how many times Trump has sued people throughout the years?
A lot, I think. I don't know the numbers, but I know it's like constant.
Over 4,000. And I'm not making that up. I'm not exaggerating. You can look this up. He's been involved in over 4,000 lawsuits since the 1970s. Most recently, he just sued Rupert Murdoch for publishing that birthday card that he says was written by Trump that Trump said he never wrote. Right before this, he sued 60 Minutes because he didn't like the way they edited a video of him. But you're telling me he's not going to sue Elon Musk for saying you're a pedophile on the Epstein list and you're committing treason and conspiracy and everything else. The only reason he wouldn't sue your fucking ass is because he knows that it's going to have to open up the files and he's going to get proved wrong. Otherwise, that's an easy $20 billion lawsuit. If he can get $10 billion from Rupert Murdoch for a stupid birthday card, imagine what you can get for somebody that alleging you're an actual pedophile who rapes and murders children and is protecting other pedophiles who are raping, murdering children and blackmailing the United States. That's treason. That is a capital offense punishable by death. And telling people that you rape and murder children. And you're telling me the man with 4,000 lawsuits wouldn't be all over that? Every person in the world, I would sue somebody if they said that about me.
It's such a serious, I've never sued him, but that I would. And I'd instantly be like, fuck you, no, I'm not. You know, you're instantly going to say, fuck you, no, I'm not in those files, you fucking scumbag. To accuse me of something so disgusting would instantly make me so angry, especially Elon Musk, not some small guy. This is millions, hundreds of millions of people saw that tweet. So for him not to go on there and go like, fuck you, that tells it all, I think.
1,000%, buddy. Just like you said, any normal person would, number one, get angry enough that they'd be motivated to release the files to prove their innocence. And when you put the friggin' incentive of a guaranteed monetary payout of big dollars because you're suing the richest man in the fucking world, it makes it that much more intriguing and that much more enticing. But Trump's not doing it because he's a good guy. He'll sue everybody else, but he won't sue Elon for the worst thing possible. He'll sue you because you edited a video in a way that made him look fat, but he won't sue the guy who said you're a pedophile who rapes and murders children. Makes sense.
Yeah, he could actually get billions of dollars from Elon too. It's not some guy that can't give money. Like I said, the world's richest fucking man. If he accused me of that, I'm not a guy that sues, but I'd be like, fuck this scumbag, I'm going to sue him. But just the silence on it, I don't think he responded to it.
I would take that as a blessing from God, and I would take the biggest payday of my life, and I would make it just as public as his tweet, how I was not in those files, so billions of people know. But if you're guilty, you can't do that, can you? And there's no other possible reason why he wouldn't do that. If somebody accuses you of being a pedo, you don't say, oh, the files are fake and they don't exist. You say, here they are, I'm not a pedo. Unless, of course, you are a pedo and you're guilty. Oh, let's talk about Howard.
Yeah, like you mentioned him last night, that's why I brought him up sometimes, because someone had heard his name and seen him a little bit, but didn't know like just how entrenched he was and how much power he has and just so many weird connections. I'll let you explain it though.
So this is one of those things where you get told about it and then you see it so you can't unsee it. You'll notice Howard Lutnick has been Trump's friggin' shadow in every press conference, especially the ones where he's asked about the Epstein files. You'll see this little bald Israeli Zionist guy right beside him like the friggin' devil on his shoulder. And who the hell is Howard Lutnick? Well, it gets very interesting. I'll tell you. Howard Lutnick is an Israeli Jewish Zionist who owned a private bank inside the World Trade Center when it collapsed. And he killed his own brother in the blast. He became one of the richest and most powerful people in the country because of this, because he inherited the whole family's wealth, including what was supposed to go to his brother. Big coincidence. And now he's involved with over 800 countries in the United States. He was Trump's main campaign finance guy to get Trump donations, especially from Israeli people like the Adelsons. And he also donated himself. Once Trump became the president, he made Howard Lutnick his commerce secretary. Guess what that put Howard in charge of, everybody?
Money?
Tariffs. And guess who came up with the idea of putting tariffs on? It was Howard Lutnick. And it's not because he loves America and wanted to make you guys money. It's because he's an Israeli Zionist that was like, how can we steal more money from these stupid American goyim? I have the perfect idea. Let's put a tariff tax in, tell them everybody else is paying for it when they are, and tell them it's going to replace their income tax so they think they're getting something for it when they're not. So all these people that think Trump is this genius that came up with this idea, no. Howard Lutnick, Israeli Zionist Jew who wants to bleed the American people dry, who's already worth billions of dollars from bleeding American people dry, came up with the idea for Trump and put it into play. And if it doesn't get any better than that, besides the fact that he now has conflict of interest with the 800 companies he has a stake in, which he assured us won't be a problem, which in any other country in the world, that's a huge problem, and he wouldn't even be allowed to be elected. Guess where Howard Lutnick lived, everybody? He owned and lived in the exact same building as Jeffrey Epstein in New York City.
You can't make this shit up, bro. When you told me that, I looked it up. I'm like, oh my God. I think he bought it from like Wexner, which was Epstein's financer. Like, you literally can't make this shit up. It's just so over the top. When you add that, let me go back to 9/11 and just the importance of he was late to work that day. And he's a guy that was never late. I just want people to make that clear too. When you start putting these things together, what are the odds?
There are no odds. It's a gazillion to one. And oh, by the way, and like you said, so Howard Lutnick not only connected to Epstein, but connected to Wexner, who was Epstein's boss and partner in the pedophile business. And if we're talking about the Bronfman family in Canada for a second, even their offspring, their grandkids, are now currently in jail for the NXVM sex cult, where they were trafficking, raping, and murdering children. So it's a generational thing for this family. And you can look this up. It's a huge case in Canada.
I've heard of that cult. I've heard the cult and I've heard the Bronfmans. I just didn't realize the Bronfmans were behind that, because I've heard of the cult and I've heard of the Bronfmans. I know they're one of the, we don't talk about much in America because they're a powerful Canadian family, but they literally made their money doing illegal mafia, part of the Jewish mafia during Prohibition. And then they've entrenched themselves into government now. I think that's kind of a lot of the Jewish mafia kind of entrenched into our government, took over our government when the Italian mafia was broken up.
And guess how they did that? By first infiltrating the government and then using the power of the senators, congressmen, etc., to shut down the Italian mafia. Mm-hmm. Guys, watch The Godfather Part 2. Herman Rock. He's obviously a Jew. Like, come on, guys. Think about it. They tell you everything in the movie.
No, because the stuff seems like too unbelievable until you start actually tracing it. Because at first you're like, oh, the Jews don't do this, that. And you're like, okay, it's not like, obviously it's not a regular Jew. It's like these like mafia infiltrated it, and too many other Jews kind of run cover because they've been brainwashed to be like, oh, everyone's against us. So they've also guys like Spielberg making all these movies, so Jewish people feel like the victim. So it's brilliant when you tie all these people. It's not brilliant, it's like an evil brilliance, how it's all tied in to brainwash. The average Jew will jump on their side because they're brainwashed to do it, not necessarily, not because they're evil. And these ones at the top are these evil psychopaths manipulating the world markets and banking and all of it. Entertainment, movies, media, like everything.
Jewish influence has over society. The entire LGBT pride movement is a Jewish movement. It was started in Greenwich, New York, which was the home of, like, the birthplace of Judaism in the United States, like 400 years ago. And the Stonewall Tavern was a place where gay Jews would go and they would have like sex parties and shit, and they would always break them up. So they started what was called the Stonewall Riots, and that turned into the first LGBT pride parade. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are so fucking stupid that you support this pride bullshit, why do you think it's called pride? What is pride? Pride isn't just a sin. It is the origin of the 7 deadly sins. It is the main sin that leads to all other sins. And they named this entire movement after the sin that is designed to sneak its way into you and corrupt you in every other way possible. And they even named it after that. And you are still blind to it. And then where do you think all this stuff like 17 million genders come from? Ladies and gentlemen, it comes from the Jewish Talmud, which is called Baal worship, otherwise known as Satan worship. These same books tell Jews that non-Jews are animals. We are non-humans. So if they want to own us, that's fine. If they want to slaughter us, it's no different than slaughtering a cow. They have the moral and legal authority to do so without any legal consequence. They can also have sex with children. However, if the child is a non-Jew, then they have to kill it after for that child making them sin. And I'm not making any of this up. Everybody can look at me like I'm crazy, but if you check it out, it makes perfect sense. And then you look at Hollywood. How many Holly weirdos have transgender kids? Transgender can be like 1 out of a million, but in Hollywood, it's like 1 out of 3. And if your kid, and even when they adopt the kid, somehow the kid turns trans. So even when the kid doesn't even have your DNA and it's from China or Africa, all of a sudden it becomes trans. Give me a friggin' break. How stupid do you really have to be?
No, I've noticed the Hollywood kid things. It's clearly demonic and organized. I don't know if they're doing it because they're told to or what, but I saw that. I'm like, man, this is evil. They're taking these kids and they're forcing them to be trans and pride, bringing them around, showing them off to people. The whole gay movement's been pushed on us. Like, I didn't realize the Stonewall riots were like Jewish riots, but you can see it's just been shoved down our throats. But that's why it is a big Trump win rejecting it. But I think it's because the base rejected it first. Like we said, we're sick of this. We're done pushing this pride shit.
He did that because he did everything that he could do to enrich and his base of support without compromising Israeli interests. Because they want to corrupt the U.S. with the LGBT shit, but they could see that it was failing anyway. So let's sacrifice this to give Trump a win. He's still going to do everything we say anyway. That's the way I look at it.
I think you're right. They have to give him a few wins. They can't just only fail. So they're like, okay, this isn't that important. We'll circle this back later. Yeah, because we'd already pushed against it before he did that. Like the people had pushed against it, the movement. I was one of the early people pushing against that. Not because I have hatred towards this. I could just see, particularly the trans. I mean, the gay stuff's bad too, but particularly the trans. You could just see it's evil, like turning these kids and putting it in sports and trying to pretend a man is a woman. This is, if you'll accept a man as a woman, you'll accept anything. That's why that was a hill I was willing to die on. I think if you'll accept that, you'll accept anything. I think they've won at that point. If we go along with trans, they can put anything on us, and we'll up is down, down is up. A man's a woman.
That's why the Jewish people use this to demoralize. Mm-hmm. And if they can make you believe something as ridiculous as a man can be a woman, they can literally make you believe anything. They own you. Who owns the porn industry? A rabbi bought Pornhub and Brazzers. Who owns OnlyFans? A Ukrainian Jew. So they're less than 0.2% of the world's population, yet somehow they dominate our government, they dominate our banks, they dominate media, they dominate the porn industry, they created the LGBT pride transgender movements, and they're the only ones in the world right now that are committing an ongoing genocide and have bombed 6 separate countries in the last few months. Yet somehow they are the God's chosen, and they are the perpetual victims, and we need to sacrifice our morals, we need to give them our money, we need to give them our support, we need to give them our very lives if asked. That is the message in the U.S. If I'm wrong, just go listen to Ted Cruz.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that's important. Why people look over and see what they're doing to Palestine, see the pure evil and humanity they're treating them with. That's how they would treat us. When people are like, "Why do you care so much Palestine?" One, I have a heart, and you can see just the pure evil. But they also look at us the same as Palestinians. They don't look at us as any better. These people look at us as just, like you said, cattle. And like the thing you say about the Talmud, I've gone down that rabbit hole, so I know everything. It sounds. I thought it was insane when I first heard it, but when you go and fact check these things, you see it's all true. I think when you first hear a lot of this shit, you're like, oh my God, this can't be true. I mean, a lot of people that watch my podcast will have heard it, obviously, and have seen you, but it's like, first time hearing this stuff, it's just overwhelming. You want to reject it. Real quick, let's circle back to Balfour Declaration. I think it's really important you mentioned that. It was the Rothschilds, the biggest Jewish banking family in history, and they were atheists. And they created this. The Balfour Declaration was to get America involved in World War I. So like, why do these Jewish people have enough power to believe that they could get, Britain obviously believed they could get America into World War I. I think the official reason they say because like the something they got a telegram to Mexico that Mexico is maybe going to invade. Give me a fucking break. You think we're worried about Mexico? That's why they say we got into World War I. And that's not, obviously it was some influence. There was no reason for America to be in World War I.
They got into World War I because the Federal Reserve was created right before World War I as the means to be able to finance World War I. And since the Federal Reserve was created by the Jews, and right after they created it, they created the income tax for American people so they could use it to create as much interest and as much debt as they wanted. And they used the Federal Reserve as the means to fund World War I. And that's why they had to get America into the war, because America was the financiers behind the war.
That's insane. And the ADL was formed the same year as the Federal Reserve. So it's like you start seeing these coincidences, and you're like, wow. And income tax, we pay about half our money. It's Americans pay about half our money to taxes when you do when you have income, property taxes. We're taxed on everything. I don't know. Canada, I think, is just as bad. They tax us every which way.
Even worse. Canada's even worse.
Yes.
They made our top income bracket. If you make $250,000 a year or more now, 66% tax.
Jesus.
So you make 250 grand, the government takes 175 and leaves you with 75. And then you still have the highest taxes everywhere. And Canadians are
pure
like,
insanity.
oh, the greatest nation in the world. The stupidest people in the world and the biggest pussies live in Canada.
No, it's so retarded. I think, a lot of times the billionaires, they don't pay these taxes. They get top accountants. But the people that get screwed are the guys making $500,000, $600,000. Those are the ones that can't afford these high accountants. The multimillionaires find ways around it. The people that are doing pretty well, they're the ones that get totally screwed.
Yeah, or the billionaires leave. You know how many people have left Canada? Well, since 2020, over 5 million Americans have gone to Mexico alone. In Canada, it's been a few 100,000. And the ones that are leaving are people with money, people with brains. It's they call it brain drain. The best and brightest are leaving, and we're being replaced by illegal immigrants from India. In your country, you're being replaced by illegal immigrants from Central America. And people in the U.S. Disproportionately say Mexicans. But it's not Mexicans that are coming to America. It's people from like Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, all the Central Americans that have to come through Mexico because that's where the border is. Mexico is a pretty big, powerful country. People do not realize this. It has one of the largest economies in the world and 180 million people. So life in Mexico, I'm here right now, is way better than it is in Canada and way better in the States. And if you look 10 years from now, it's going to be exponentially better. And that's why, like I said, over 5 million people from the States have already come to Mexico since 2020 and something like 200,000 from Canada. And that's just Mexico, not even the other countries.
Yeah, yesterday, or last night on Twitter, I go, I'm interviewing you today. It was mostly positive. A few people were like, well, what does he say about running off to Mexico and leaving Canada? Which I understand why, but I think I should ask you that question so you can address that.
One second. Left Canada. I have a business in Canada that has been running for the last 30 years. I own 2 properties in Canada that are more than 99% of Canadians' net worth. I just renewed my Canadian passport last month for the next 10 years. Just because I'm smart enough to get a residency in another country so I can diversify my assets, diversify my investments, my income, diversify my risk, and provide myself options for living. In Canada, when we had the pandemic, they made it so if you weren't vaccinated, you couldn't leave the country. And then they made it if you weren't vaccinated, you couldn't even leave your province, which is the equivalent of not being able to leave your state. So you think I'm going to go through that bullshit ever again? No, I got a residency in Mexico. So if they ever try to keep me in Canada, I can leave. And in Mexico, in the banking system, you can get 10, 15% interest on your money, which you can't get in Canada or can't get in the States. So for all those people that said, I ran from Canada, no, you fucking bullshitters. First of all, I'm still fighting charges in Canada, got arrested 30 times in Canada, own multiple properties in Canada, have 12 dogs at a rescue sanctuary I run in Canada. But no, I ran from Canada because I choose to be here right now. And I was in Canada 3 weeks ago and I'm going again in a couple weeks. Kiss my ass. You're all full of shit. All these haters.
You get lots of haters. And, for me, it's like, I want to stay and fight for America, but I also want a second passport. I'm realizing it could be a thing where if we lose this information war, they're going to try to put me in jail. They're not going to let me stay out. Like guys like me and you, we're going to jail if we lose the information war. We need a second residency. I'm here, fighting for my country, but you also have to be smart too. Plus, like you said, your money goes further. Sunshine. It's not always bad. I respect guys staying and fighting too. Like I'm staying here and fighting, but you still are in the fight in Canada. You were one of the, from what I saw, you're one of the leaders, the leading people in COVID. That's what forced me into speaking up. I wasn't political, but they literally forced me into it. And I saw you right from day one. I knew it was bullshit. And I can't remember when I first saw you, but it was nice seeing people that could see through this bullshit because it was crazy. Just watching, like you said, 89% of people, I was in San Francisco, they were just going along with it. And that's when I realized it was important to have voices like ours speak up because we can make a difference.
Big time. For people that say one man can't make a difference, that's complete, utter BS. One man can make all the difference, let alone what
huge difference
warriors can do together or 4 warriors can do together. We proved that. And the other thing that people prove, this is what pisses me off, and this is the other reason I want to get as many passports and residencies as possible. People learned absolutely nothing from the COVID disaster. 2 things I noticed. Number 1, you asked 10 people, 10 random people, Canada, US, wherever. Did you comply with COVID? No, man. I didn't wear the mask. I didn't take the jab. 10 out of 10 people will say that. So where were the 95% of the people wearing the mask? Where were
I was in
they?
San Francisco. 99% of people wore their fucking masks, and they all tell me they weren't. I was like, probably more than 99%. I was like, people would turn their backs and would walk by and hassle me, but I just had integrity. So when all these people say that, I'm like, you're fucking lying. I know a few of these people are telling the truth, but yes, maybe in these liberal places it was more like 50%. But in these conservative places, liberal places, everyone went along with it. Everyone. I was treated like a pariah there because I refused to put on a mask. And everyone says they were doing it. It's like, you're fucking lying. You know, you're fucking lying. I couldn't go into a restaurant because I didn't have a vaccine. I couldn't go into a bar, and everyone else could do it. And everyone's saying just comply. And it's like, no, you have to stand for something.
Thank you. So that pissed me off more than anything, because that proves right there that not only are they all pussies, they're all full of shit. And they'll all lie and make excuses, which means they'll do it again. They'll do it again. At least if they came forward and was like, fuck, man, I did comply. I was a bitch, but I'm not going to do that again. You might actually believe them. But when they come up to you, and you know for a fact that bitch is triple jabbed and was wearing multicolored masks for different days of the week, and they come and tell you they weren't complying, I want to slap your fucking teeth out. I'm not going to lie.
No, I agree. I do get a lot of people that come up though and say they're vaccinated and it got them sick, and like I was right. So I actually do get that a lot. I'm sure you do too. It's funny, someone else goes questions asked, like, ask him if he's vaccinated. I'm like, dude, clearly he's not fucking vaccinated. I would think. We're not. You don't seem that retarded.
No, and I didn't go the route to get the fake vaccination. I got a vaccine exemption and I got a mask exemption. And even with the mask exemption, I'm still banned off most Canadian airlines because they wanted to politicize not letting me on, even though I had the exemption. So I went on anyway and got arrested. I'm still banned on WestJet. I'm still banned on Swoop. I'm still banned on Flair. I can fly now only basically on Air Canada and one other Porter. Those are the only two airlines in Canada I could fly. Banned from PayPal for life. Amazon gave me a book deal the day before my book went on sale. I was arrested coincidentally, and they canceled my book deal. I self-published 15,000 copies because I anticipated they were going to fuck me, and I'm always one step ahead, real 5D chess. So I sold the 15,000 books, got another 20,000 made, and they went to the warehouse and robbed all the books, and then had PayPal ban me for life. I can't even make a payment on a third-party website if it's a PayPal thing, because as soon as I put my information in, I'm banned. If I go on like the airline websites where I'm banned, as soon as I put my name and birthday in, I'll get an error message. Like they went hardcore out of their way to ban me. I was a member of Royal Bank, which is the biggest bank in Canada. They froze my accounts. It took me almost 3 months to get the account unfrozen, and then they just told me to take my money out, and they closed my account. So when I know about government corruption, I know about targeting. Trust me. And when they tried to hit me with the car the other day, that wasn't the first time they tried to kill me. And another time they tried to have me injected with something to make it look like I died of a drug overdose. But we caught them and started filming the people on live, so they just stopped. Another time they tried to shoot me, but I got away in a car. That didn't work. And another time they set me up for a car accident. This is when I was actually in the States, and I almost went off the road and almost died, but I survived. So at least 3 or 4 times I know of that people have tried to kill me. And one time they had a guy actually smash me with a car while I was parked in my driveway. I was parked in my driveway. And the guy says he fell asleep at the wheel and turned into my driveway at full speed and hit me.
Jesus. Yeah. You have some pretty serious enemies, it sounds like. But probably growing up around serious people too.
Even my father, God rest his soul, when I first started speaking out about this, the people I already told you about, the Bronfmans, they reached out to one of my father's best friends, who was someone I'd known since I was like 4 years old. And this was right at the beginning of COVID, like March 2020. And he called me and said, I'm pissing off the wrong people. They're very rich, they're very powerful, and they're not happy. So I got to stop talking about COVID, and I got to delete all my social media. I go, if they're so rich and powerful, why are they telling you to tell me this? He's like, excuse me? I go, you know why they're telling you? I go, because these feeble little fucking bitches know that if they came up to me in person and said what you said, I would rip their fucking throat out and feed it to them. So that's why their pussy ass used you, a pussy errand boy. Don't ever call me again. Hung up on him. 20 minutes later, my father called me. And my father threatened me, saying they're going to kill me. They're going to kill my wife. They're going to kill my dogs. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And I got so pissed off because I always thought my father had a spine. I didn't know that he would kneel and lick the boots of anybody, and he was ready to lick the boots of these people. And it drove me fucking crazy. So I told him basically, not only am I not going to stop talking, by next year you're going to see me as the leader of this fucking movement, and these people are going to be really fucking pissed off with you. A week later, I live on 5 acres at that point. I have a fence all around my property. I have cameras that see 99% of the property, which are monitored 24 hours a day by a third-party surveillance company, not by myself, by actual company. Somebody was able to cut my fence, the one spot where they knew the cameras couldn't see, like they were either able to access the footage or had ability into someone inside the place. They jumped through my fence and they put a big gravestone on my property to let me know that I was going to die.
Like a warning. It's interesting though. I think guys like us as regular people are making a change. So it shows we can do it. Things are so much different now with media and social media. Like guys like you were a big voice. That's why, I realized I got to start speaking up too and starting a podcast. Like lots of normal people, are making change. Guys like Dan Blazarian, he was a poker player known for degeneracy. He goes, I've lived my life wrong. I need to do something right. It's like regular people are actually changing things. That's why I get so sick of these cowards. All these guys being like, oh, you can't win. You're going to get offside trouble, killed, whatever. It's like, fuck you guys. I'm sick of your cowardice. It's time to have a little spine, stand up. We're all going to fucking die anyways. So we need to at least stand up. We can't just live through enslavement.
100,000%. It's the old adage. The all evil needs to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And if you're doing nothing, you're not a good man. You're a fucking pussy, spineless bitch. And that's how 90% of people get through their life. In Canada, I'm telling you right now, half the men could be walking down the street with their girl. A guy could come up and try to steal her purse, and that guy will stand there and watch and let the woman defend herself. That's the level of patheticness we've come to in the world today.
No, it's insane. Like one of the most harsh that ever been attacked on Twitter. I said some Indian guy watched his wife get gang raped in front of him by Indian dudes. I'm like, what a fucking coward. He should have done something. What's he supposed to do? Get beat up? It's like, yeah, you're a fucking dude. Your job if your girl's getting attacked is step in the way, even if you might get killed. We're a man. That is our job to protect our women and children. If you have a dog, literally, it's our job. I didn't realize that was controversial. And these guys are such cowards. They're mad at me for calling out cowardice.
Bro, and I've heard MAGA supporters literally say, I don't give a fuck if Trump diddled 100 children's assholes. What? All I care about is my gas prices. That's the level of integrity we have in America today. And we wonder why our government is in a position where they can all be blackmailed as pedophiles. Because they're all, the people that are politicians have the least integrity of all.
Yeah, they're disgusting. And the way they're tweeting, it seems like a lot of these guys are more than bribery, the Lindsey Grahams and stuff. It seems like they have them on camera fucking kids or something. It's insane. Anyway, I got another interview in a few minutes. So let's, any topics you want to wrap up on before we,
Bro, we hit a lot of good stuff. We could talk forever.
I definitely will. Yeah. Yeah, that's anything you want to hit before we wrap. So definitely talk to you again.
Instagram while it lasts. My Instagram right now is ChrisSky83. I'm completely shadow banned at the moment. 3 weeks ago when I post a video, it would get hundreds of thousands of views. Now it gets a few thousand. And I have every restriction possible on my account. I can't even message people. I can't do lives. I can't do anything. But this is why I do podcasts.
Oh, yeah. You got right when I messaged you is when you got banned from messaging, right? Because somehow someone reached out and was like, oh, he just got banned. So couldn't message you back. So somehow I got your phone number. It's it's crazy. So they don't want people, they don't want people to be able to reach out and get you on podcasts and stuff. They want to shut down so you can't have people reaching out and being like, oh, come on my show and do this type of stuff. They want your voice shut down.
The one message I want everybody to leave with is what you already said, and I want to expand on it. When they said that one person can't make a difference, how do we know we're making a difference? Look at Trump trying to defend himself for the Epstein case. If we don't stop, if we keep pushing like we're pushing, it's getting harder and harder and harder for them to keep making more and more excuses. So sooner or later, we're going to be able to start holding these people accountable. That was the 3 phases. In my book, I called something united non-compliance, the way to end COVID, the way to end tyranny. Phase 1 was the awakening, getting everybody aware of what's really going on, which we've done a very good job of. Phase 2 is taking action, which is hammering these fucks over and over every day, saying, release the files, release the files, release the files. And phase 3, which we never did in COVID, which is the reason all this shit is still going on, is holding these people accountable. They need to be arrested. They need to be charged. And in this case, many of them need to be legally executed as per the brand new law in Florida for child diddlers. It's really that simple. This idea that they can't arrest all these pedophiles because it's going to destroy the world is certified bullshit. Arresting 5,000 sick fucks is not going to destroy the world. It's going to save the world. It's going to stop the genocide in Israel. It's going to stop the corruption in the United States. It's going to stop all the friggin' monopolies on all the industries that we're seeing, the global economic strife, the racism, the LGBT, the hatred. All of that will go away the moment Israel can no longer blackmail our politicians.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. If arresting pedos is going to cause the country to collapse, we deserve to fucking collapse. It's not a country I want to live in. So hey, man, yeah, thanks. So, like, you're not on Twitter now, are you?
They banned me. Mr. Free Speech, Elon Musk banned me. And they allow fake clone accounts of me, so everybody thinks I'm still there. So they
I thought I saw you on there yesterday.
Platform. Because I've had hundreds of people say, that's not real Chris Sky, that's a fake account. And they know because my real account's banned with 250,000 followers, and all these fake accounts with a few thousand followers are allowed to proliferate and literally clone my exact account. Same pictures, same everything. It's ridiculous.
No, that's wild. Did they give you a reason why you were suspended, or just
I got the reason because I posted in Canada, Toronto Star, our biggest newspaper, posted a front page clip saying that the unvaccinated deserve to die. And I posted the clip, and then the caption I wrote, what if I wrote the vaccinated deserve to die? And that's what got me banned for life from Twitter. So you could say that the unvaccinated deserve to die, but I said, but what if the vaccinated deserve to die? I got banned for life. And I tried to appeal. I tried everything. Used the same company that got my Instagram back to try to get my Twitter back. It's been 1.5 years, and I still haven't got it back.
Damn, that's wild. Well, hey, man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for speaking up, and have a good one.
Thank you, brother.
Leave the browser open for like 1 to 2 minutes. I think it has to download on your side so it gets better screen.
Yeah,
I don't know. It should be pretty quick, but just I would leave it for like 2 minutes or something. And then thanks so much. I probably won't get this out for like 2 weeks. I'm a little backed up, but I was in the studio today, so I figured I might as well film it before you said you're gonna be traveling and shit. So that was great. Definitely.
Podcast. I want to do Bryce's podcast too.
Yeah, no, that's right. He's got that podcast. I'll put you in touch with Bryce, and yeah, I'll see if
I love Bryce. Everybody was hating on him. I was like, no, this guy's 1,000% right. We got to talk.
Right, he's a speak of truth. So if I think of any other good podcast too, something like Hodge Twin, someone like that, because I mean, I haven't seen you on any big podcasts, and you're a good voice. I don't know. It's like you probably have been on some, but like
other than like the Alex Jones and stuff, Stu Peters, I was hiding, bro. I didn't want to.
Okay, you've been Alex Jones and stuff. So that's good then. I mean, he's all weird now, but no, we'll stay in touch. I'll let you know when this comes out, probably about 2 weeks. So thanks so much, man. Talk soon.
Brother, have a great one.